You know what? I apologize. I wasn't ignoring your question. Yeah, the reason it's difficult for us is because if it's what time is it there?
So right now it's 8. So 8:19.
8 p.m.
Yeah, p.m.
Okay, because it's 9:20 a.m. here in Sao Paulo, China. What city are you in? Because I know, but the people watching might not.
All right, so I'm talking to you from Taichung, Taiwan. So hello from the Far East.
Taiju, Taiwan.
Taichung.
Taiju. Is that near Taipei?
It's about 2 hours south if you were to drive. So it's central. It's like the central western part of Taiwan.
Wait. Okay, hold on. Is Taiwan a city or a state? I mean, Taipei.
I think it depends. It depends on who you're talking to. So yeah, Taipei is the capital city, and then Taiwan is the country. But I think calling whether or not Taiwan's a country, that's another interesting discussion.
You know what? Why bury the lead? Like, okay, I lived in China for a couple of years. Wait, hold on. Let me do this.
Okay.
Tell everybody who you are, because you get to come on sometimes, but you don't get to come on often because of our time difference. Tell them who you are. I'm going to go to your where you write your articles.
Yeah, on Medium. Yeah. So my name is Nicole. I'm from New Jersey in the United States, and I currently live in Taichung, Taiwan. So I work here as a teacher. I teach English, the English language, and I also teach electives in science. And occasionally I teach students tumbling lessons, so like gymnastics.
Say that again.
Which part?
You teach what lessons?
Tumbling, like gymnastics.
Okay. I didn't know you were a gymnast.
Oh, well, a very long time ago I was, when I was a child. So it actually started as kind of like an experiment. So the class I had last year, it's a 2-hour long class, and there's a 30-minute block of the class time where you do essentially PE class. So that could range from having the kids run around playing on the playground, doing like obstacle courses, or you can choose like a sport for them to learn and to get really good at. So the end of last year with the class I had, I decided like, oh, let me try and teach tumbling to them. And it seemed well received. So when I got my new class, I started teaching them within the first month of the school year. And I've been doing it for about 7 months now. And it's been going really well. So it actually made me kind of consider like to do it as like my own thing outside of the school. So it's just as an idea I'm entertaining.
Alrighty. Well, okay, you do a fair bit of writing. Okay.
Yes, on Medium. Mm-hmm.
On Medium. And I want to, well, let me do this one. This is one I want everybody to go read. It's an 11-minute read. Why aren't more people interested in gymnastics? I left the link to your Medium there.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to ask is, how come you never made the, because people always enjoy it when you come by and say hello to us. How come you never made the jump to YouTube?
I'm not very like photo-centric or video-centric, I guess. I don't like making videos. Because people always ask me to do that. Because I know like in our like group chats on WhatsApp, I think a few people have asked me like, oh, are you on YouTube? And I'm just like, I'm not really interested in doing it. I think I express myself better with writing than with making videos.
Well, here's what I would say. I would tell you to never stop writing. But even if you took what you wrote and just talked about them on a video format, because I'm a writer too. You remember I have YusefWateef.com, but when my friends beat me up for a long time to pressure me into just taking what I was writing, write it, put it there, and then just talk about it on YouTube, the jump exponentially in people who can hear what you're saying. And this is what I always say. There are two reasons. One reason is selfish. One, you get to meet a lot of new cool people. You get to really take your voice and your experiences around the world and get other people who are just as crazy as you are in with you. But what I've always looked at is, in the unselfish part, there's somebody just like you who needs to know that they can do what you're doing. You know, there's going to be this girl somewhere, this black girl somewhere who needs to look at you and go, oh, I can be like Nicole. You know, it makes me feel good to have so many Black men of all ages say, you know what, if you can do it, I can do it. Because I tell people all the time, I'm not special. I'm not even smart. I just made a decision and just worked my ass off to get it. Now I get to lead this life of, you know, awesomeness with a luxurious mustache because I only work for myself, things like that. So I would say that to you, and I say that kind of in a peer pressure kind of way. Part of it is that if you ever wanted to help get set up, I would take an afternoon and show you how to set it up. That's not the problem. But for you to go on just talking about what it is that your life experience has done for you, everything from tumbling to living abroad to all that other stuff, just daily stuff. There are tons of people who need to hear your message, because I go out every day and I see people who have no idea what they're talking about, bringing their message to people and just fucking their lives up.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and with you, you know, your method is authentic. But the one thing we will never talk about on your channel when you started is we're never going to talk about China and Taiwan. But we can talk about that here.
Oh, yeah.
Because I lived in Shanghai for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. And how long have you been in Taiwan?
2 years.
Okay.
Going on 3.
Before we get to the fun stuff, can you clue us in, like, how did Taiwan get started?
I feel like it's like many things that built it up. So I think I'll start with university. So my first year in university, I accidentally took this class called The History and Politics of East Asia. And the reason I chose this class is because when I was registering for my classes for the second semester, I was really late. So all of my first choices were no longer available. The classes were full. So I was just looking through what was left and seeing like, okay, which classes can I choose that will fulfill all the general requirements that I need? And then also based on the time the class was offered, because I was playing sports at that time. So there were certain like days and certain times where I couldn't schedule a class. So I just saw this class listed, History and Politics of East Asia. And I was just like, okay, I need a history class. That ticks a box. And I need like a international class. So in my school, there was like a requirement that you had to take at least 2 international classes. So whether that's a foreign language, non-US history, international business, international government, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, okay, I can tick off 2 check boxes. So I took this class. The professor is actually Taiwanese. So I feel like that class, and I guess some of the things I learned, I think it kind of sat in the back of my mind, because I remember after that class, it was just like, oh, it's very interesting. Maybe one day I can go travel around East Asia, because it seems like an interesting place. So then I'll fast forward toward the end of university. So when I'm about to finish school, on a lot of university websites, they have like these job board postings where they'll list all the different jobs that you can apply to. So these are companies that are looking for recent graduates to hire once someone completes their education. And I saw things like Peace Corps and like
they almost got me.
Yeah, teach in South Korea, teach in China, teach in Japan, and I'm just like, huh, this is interesting. So I clicked in. I was like kind of reading through the description. And then it reminded me that someone that I knew, she graduated 2 years before me. And I noticed that like on social media, she was living in South Korea. And when I saw like that teaching job in South Korea, I was just like, oh, I wonder if that's what she's doing over there. So I went on Facebook, I messaged her, and I kind of just like asked her questions, like see what she's doing over there, how she finds it. And so she told me that she was teaching there, and she kind of gave me a rundown of where in South Korea she lives, her experience. And then she told me, oh, if this is something you want to do, send me your resume. Because she was actually planning on coming back to the States because I think someone in her family was sick and she wanted to be home in case worse comes to worse, that family member passes away. So her school... Sorry?
She wanted you to replace her.
Yeah. She wanted me to replace her position. So she was saying, like, send me a resume and blah, blah, blah. And I was, like, saying, like, so when should I come? And they kind of wanted to fill the position ASAP, but I was still in school at the time. I had 4 more months left. So I wouldn't be able to come so soon. I need to finish school first. But she was like, oh, that's okay. Just send me your resume anyway. So it's just so they can keep it on file. And I was just like, okay, cool. But I still got a few more months until I finish school. So during the meantime, I just decided, let me do my homework and see what other information I can find. So I was looking more and I saw like, oh, it's in many Asian countries. In fact, it's in many countries around the world where you can teach. And I guess one of the reasons why I chose Taiwan, so I was considering China, I was considering South Korea after seeing some positive things that I heard. But I think I chose Taiwan because it was a more quote unquote mysterious place to me. I knew a little bit more about China than I did Taiwan. I mean, as a child, I think all I really knew about Taiwan is that if you look at the back of some toys or some electronics, it'll say made in Taiwan. So I think that's all I really knew as a child. And then when I took that class my freshman year, I kind of learned a little bit more about the history and geopolitics between China and Taiwan. But I didn't really know anything outside of that. So I think that's what kind of nudged me to opt for choosing Taiwan. So that's kind of how I decided to come out here.
Wow. And that's how you got there. You know, one of the things that I always tell people is that teaching English is an interesting gig if you're qualified or certified, or however we want to put it, to do it, because it allows you to earn a middle-class living almost anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when I was in China, I had done a few things. I was teaching, but at the same time, I have my own business, and some of you guys know that I do expat relocation services, but a lot of that came about after I was also doing my business as a editor, copywriter, proofreader. And here's the crazy part. The expat relocation services thing, that took over in the past 3 or 4 months as my primary business. And I'm still doing the same amount of editing, copy editing, proofreading for people. And if anybody wants to catch up with me on LinkedIn, here I am. But have you been getting people asking, can you help me get out of where I am? If anybody wants to join me on LinkedIn, feel free. I always tell people, you know, actually, I'll show you something while you're telling me whether or not let me show you what I've been doing privately, but I've had to actually do this. If you look at the screen, I've had to start doing this full time. Have people been asking you?
Yeah, a few people have asked me. Some people that I went to high school with. And I guess on my Medium, I've talked a little bit about my time in Taiwan, kind of like my first impressions during my first year here. So I've had a few people who've found my social media and kind of like messaged me like, oh, I want to hear more about Taiwan, or what were the steps you took to come out here, and questions like that.
Well, if you are interested offline, I ended up developing mine into an actual business, which is how I developed it into a business a while back, and I just had to really scale it up. If you need any help at all, if you actually want to do that, let me know.
Yeah,
I'm here for you. But I tell people this when they look at my resume on LinkedIn, to never look at that, to always go straight down and look at where are they? Here they are. I always say, look at the recommendations. Recommendations are how you know that someone's legitimate, when other people are willing to put their professional name on who they are and say, this guy is the real deal. Hire. But so now that we've gone through that, even if we go back to that first class where you learned about the politics of Asia, I guess you called it.
Yeah, it's like history, politics, because yeah, you could say that.
Taiwan right now, okay, I'm going to ask a question, and this is a trick question for everybody who knows what's coming, okay? Everybody knows. By the way, you've had a couple of great compliments. Beautiful Nicole, the guest, hello and good morning.
Oh, hello, raining woman.
And our friend Summer Lady said, yeah, that peer pressure kind of way, like, yeah, it's not nearly as complex as you think, because you already understand how words work. So you just turn on your laptop the exact way we're doing right now, except on Nicole 2 Cooper's YouTube. 15, 20 minutes a day just to educate people. You don't even have to educate people. Talk about 1 or 2 days, talk about your life. 1 or 2 days, talk about business. 1 or 2 days, talk about things that, cultural experiences you had. Put pictures up. This is what you can do in Taiwan, or just your life, or just being Black. But there are people who need to hear our voices. Yeah. So here's the trick question. Right. What's the thing between China and Taiwan?
So I think the number one question is Taiwan a country? So depending on who you talk to, that answer might be yes, that answer might be no. And let's say you look at like the definition of a country. It'll say something like a land that has its own government, its own currency, its own passport, its own laws. And if you were to look at that and compare Taiwan and China, you would see that the government systems are different, currency is different, the leadership's different. There's in every sense of a way, you could say Taiwan follows the definition of a country. But I think a lot of the history between the two places, Taiwan can't officially be known as a country, I guess, according to the United Nations.
It can or cannot?
It cannot.
Okay.
Do you know why?
I'm hoping you're going to tell me that part.
Okay, yeah, I can tell you that. So I guess in like the early 1900s, there was a civil war between, I guess, the Chinese nationalists and then I guess the growing influence of the Chinese Communist Party. So during this time, they were fighting back and forth for a couple years. And then at the same time, they were also fighting the Japanese because that was kind of around the time when Japan was colonizing a lot of places in Asia. And I guess after World War II, when Japan had to clean up its own mess after getting bombed to death, then I guess the Chinese Civil War kind of picked up and essentially the communists won, whereas the nationalist government kind of retreated to Taiwan. So on what we call the mainland, aka China, they kind of declared themselves as the People's Republic of China. Whereas in Taiwan, they kind of kept the original name of the country, which is the Republic of China. So there's the ROC, Republic of China, which was the government before. And then you have the PRC, the People's Republic of China, aka China. And then I guess what happened over time is that the PRC China kind of gained its international recognition over the years. And the United Nations decided to recognize that China as China. And Taiwan was kind of like kicked to the curb. So they've tried to work an agreement, and as of right now, it's Taiwan can have its own government, have its own laws, but it cannot call itself a country. If it tries to declare independence from China, then China will pretty much declare war on Taiwan. And given the size of both places, it's pretty clear who would win that battle.
So, okay, let me make sure, because I want you to explain this to us, and to me particularly, like you're explaining history to a child, because again, my experience isn't really the same, because we don't, like, for example, in Shanghai, we had a lot of fun, we did a lot of things, but there were always these mysterious stories of someone talking to a client or a coworker, and the stories always go, where have you lived? Oh, I've lived in London, I lived in Spain, I did this, I lived in Taiwan, and they would be fired the next day.
Mm-hmm. Really?
For saying that they had just, I spent a holiday in Taiwan.
Wow.
Yeah. In any way acknowledging that you visited Taiwan or that Taiwan is a place, no matter who you were, immediately got you deported the next day.
Wow. That's crazy.
Now, so what you're saying is that there was a civil war in China, okay? Mm-hmm. Two factions. Mm-hmm. One faction clearly started winning. The other guys, who were the old government, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Retreats to a place that they now call Taiwan. The United Nations looks at the people who won the war and said, okay, you guys are China to us. The other folks had to go to another country. Now, when they went to this other country, they started their own country, their own currency, their own government.
So let me run that back. So Taiwan was originally part of China, but in the early 1900s, it became a Japanese colony.
I did not know that part.
Yeah. So I know that I'm going to mess up the dates because I don't remember it all. But I think in like the late 1800s or the early 1900s, it was there was a war between the Japanese and the Chinese, and the Japanese was able to take complete control over Taiwan, and I think they also took control over modern day North and South Korea, and I think they took over some other parts of China that border North Korea.
Read that.
Yeah, Japanese Taiwan was a period of Taiwan and the Penang on Japanese rules. Okay, so between 1895 and 1945. So yeah, I knew when the colonial period ended because essentially the Japanese control retreated from Taiwan after they got bombed from Americans in the World War II. So Taiwan Province, Treaty of Shimonoseki after Japanese received first China-Japanese War. Yeah.
Wow. That's wild. So, according to the United Nations, they can't be a country because why?
I think it more so just has to do with the amount of power that China kind of obtained once they established the People's Republic. So I guess they kind of used whatever they could to influence the UN to kind of shun Taiwan or the official name ROC, Republic of China. And actually, they are also not supported by the World Health Organization as well.
Really?
Yeah. So that was actually a really concerning thing when this whole pandemic broke out, because Taiwan cannot be helped by the World Health Organization. So if things were to have gotten really bad here with the coronavirus, the WHO essentially wouldn't help Taiwan. So it was really deep.
Yeah, for people who don't really understand the concept of China, who I talk to, first, most people don't understand. They understand China's big. China has a lot of people. You don't understand the economic and social power that China has all over the world. Most Americans really don't get that China is in a situation where they don't have to be right. They'll just kick you in the balls. Like, even if you win, is it going to be worth it? Because what's the language they speak there? Is it the Hu dialect, the Wu dialect, Wu Chinese? What do they speak?
Yeah, they speak Mandarin. So Mandarin is the main language, and then they also have the local dialects.
Huh. So, okay, with Mandarin language, when I lived in Shanghai.
But also the Mandarin language, the written Mandarin is actually a little bit different. So if you ever go on like Google Translate and you were to select Chinese, you'll notice that there are two options. There's Chinese simplified and there's Chinese traditional. So in Taiwan, they use Chinese traditional, whereas mainland China uses simplified Chinese. And I believe Hong Kong also writes in traditional Chinese.
So, okay, the traditional is called for Taiwan. It's Taiwan, right?
Yeah, traditional is Taiwan.
You know what? I'm going to put this in Google Translate real quick, and we're going to find out what you. Hold on a second. Let's run a quick experiment.
Yeah. So if you wanted to translate something from English to Chinese, you'll notice that there are two options. There's simplified and there's traditional. So
Taiwan.
No. Okay. Type Chinese.
Wait, English and put Chinese over here, right?
Yeah. So put so start with translate.
Oh wow, you're right.
And then you see. So there's two versions.
Wow. Well then, I just got learned. And so if I type in the word China,
I think what the difference between traditional and simplified Chinese is that in traditional Chinese they use more strokes in so like some of the Chinese words there's many different strokes and it's very like detailed. So in simplified Chinese it's just less detailed in some of the characters.
Wow. Okay then. I just got learned. So technically, does Taiwan pay taxes to China? Are they a colony? Are they a vassal state? Do they maintain a military?
No, Taiwan has their own military. They have their own government system. The government system in Taiwan is very similar to the one in the US. So you have a president election every 4 years. Actually, earlier this year was an election here. So the president can serve up to 2 4-year terms. So actually, the current president of Taiwan was also won in the 2016 election here.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting because so the government in China was influenced by Russia, what was then the Soviet Union. And then you have Hong Kong, which was a British colony, and their government structure. I mean, I'm not really well versed on the things in Hong Kong, but it seems like a lot of their influences come from Great Britain. And then with Taiwan, their government structure, their influence seemed to come from the US because it's very similar.
And wow. The history of China in general is so vast that most people, even those of us who have lived there, really have a hard time understanding that it was a place that existed for how long? Oh, we got a wow.
Yeah, it's wow indeed. And I feel like that's just like the tip of the iceberg with some of this stuff. Because like whenever I do more research kind of about like the backstory, I'm always just like, what? This happened?
Wow. So let me do this. We just got a comment that leads me to someplace we're gonna get. He says, okay, in Hong Kong they speak Cantonese.
Yeah, they speak Cantonese.
Is the written version okay? We know that the written version of Chinese has traditional and simplified, and that where you are in Taiwan they use traditional. Okay, Totally got that. The language that's spoken, could someone go from Taipei, Taiwan to Shanghai and have the same experience?
So I mean, like understanding the language.
Yeah, talking, you meet two guys that were friends on Facebook, say, let's have lunch in New York. One guy was born and raised in Taipei, Taiwan. One guy was born and raised in Shanghai. Would they be able to communicate?
Yeah, I think the main difference is maybe certain words are different. And of course, accents would also be different. So I guess essentially it's like someone from New York, someone from Texas, someone from California meeting up. And you'll notice that there are certain words that may be different or the accent of how they say things. So like, for example, soda versus pop, sneakers versus tennis shoes. So they probably have a lot of words like that.
Because I did a video, and I'll share it. It was called Red China Questions. And I did it with a bunch of people, and we talked about our lives just in different cities in China, because you can have life in China that has so many different areas in it and so many different places. For example, one of the main differences is right now when you said, hey, let's chat. The first time we chatted online, it occurred to me, you can just go online.
Yeah, we don't have the great firewall that's over there.
And in China, in order to use the internet freely, you have to cheat. You literally have to use VPN. You have to use something that will allow you to break through the wall. So they don't have access to just free and open internet. And I suspect that's one of the things that Taiwan has done that has given them a lot of freedom, for a better, lack of a better word.
Yeah. So I can go on Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. So a lot of the stuff that's banned in China, or you need to use like a VPN to get access to those things. Yeah, I can just type on the internet, facebook.com, youtube.com, and there's no problems.
Let me back up for a minute. Thanks to Team Captain BK. Everybody watching this, I don't know where you're watching this. You might be watching this on Facebook. You might be watching this someplace else. You may have gotten the link off of anything. Make sure you please like, share, and subscribe. This is how we get to have other interesting conversations, because on this channel, we talk about a lot of stuff, but we mainly talk about world travel, my life in Brazil, her life in China, just people all over the world. We talk about my favorite subject, which is money. Everything from cryptocurrency to savings to how to finance living abroad to career choices to working online and pulling money out of that. And we also talk about a lot of social issues, everything from disease and virus spread to social issues. So if you don't like what you see today, that's okay. Subscribe for a month. Something will come up that you enjoy. I suspect, tell me if I'm wrong, I suspect that because they have freedom and access to the internet, they're able to bring their plight to the public and say, look at what's happening to us. So is that what keeps China from basically just kicking them in the balls?
I guess yes and no. I guess kind of the diplomatic relationships that the U.S. has with China and Taiwan, I guess in a way the U.S. kind of serves as like a mediator. So they'll protect Taiwan if China wants to get power hungry, but Taiwan can't be walling out and saying like, oh, I'm going to declare independence and call myself the Republic of Taiwan and say we are not part of China. So I think kind of I guess you could say they try to remain civil with each other because they know that if someone does something too much, it could cause conflict. So if China randomly wants to invade Taiwan for no reason, then someone like the US would probably step in. And if Taiwan wants to get bold and say, we're publicly going to announce we're not associated with China, then China is going to attack, and the US may be hesitant to step in because they don't want to sever the relationship that they have with China. So I think that's kind of how they remain civil with each other. So they call it like, I guess they call it the status quo. So I guess kind of the agreement that both governments made is just like, all right, so China's like, okay, you can do your own thing, have free internet, have your democratic like government system, and do your own thing. And if you want to be a part of sporting events, so like for example, the Olympics, World Cup, things like that, they can compete in those things separate from China, but they call themselves Chinese Taipei. So I don't know if you really watch a lot of international sporting events, but if you ever see a team called Chinese Taipei, that's actually Taiwan.
That's interesting.
So China lets them do all of this stuff as long as they don't try to officially declare themselves as a country. And so, Taiwan is like, okay, we'll play by your rules as long as we can keep doing our own thing.
Here's something that I've noticed about the way China looks at the rest of Asia. They've got a very interesting way in that, for better or for worse, as much as people want to talk about China being the bad guy, when I see them talk about their other colonies, as they call them, or children, they call them, they never look at them and say, we want to blow you up. They're like, we want you to just be part of China again. Because if they just wanted war, they could have done that to a lot of places, but they very clear, like, we don't want to destroy anyone else who's Chinese. We just want us all to be Chinese together. Because a lot of people don't understand that China isn't China. China is a huge number of countries that were conquered, and they said, we're family, whether you like it or not. Like, I know Chinese people from China that are 6.5 feet tall because
Mm-hmm.
they came from the north, which are actually closer to Arabs, than Chinese. But when the Chinese got there, they were like, you know what? We're all Chinese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. There was a woman who was a client of mine. She was 6'3" or 4", easily 230 or 40 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the average Asian person? No, but
Yeah. Usually a lot of them are shorter, small frame, very thin.
see, you got an easy time shopping out there. I used to have stuff shopped in because I would go places and everything I had to have was custom made. Because they're like, I could walk into a store like, oh man, these guys got some nice suits, and they would just look at me like, come on, let's just take out the tape measure. You're not buying anything off the rack. My neck is bigger than most of your legs.
But it's still kind of hard for me because I'm tall, so I have long arms and long legs. So like if I buy like long pants or a long sleeve shirt, usually it doesn't fit right. And I also notice with a lot of shirts here, so a lot of people here tend to have short torsos. So I remember one time I bought a shirt because the summers here it's really hot and humid. So I was trying to buy like some clothes with thinner material that I could wear to work. And I bought this shirt one day, and before I left the house, I went to go like lift something on a top shelf, and then I realized the shirt would like come up and almost look like a crop top. So like my stomach was out, and I was just like, oh, now I can't wear this to work, but like I'm running late, so I can't change. So pretty much the whole time I was kind of just like tucking my shirt into my pants because if my shirt flies up, all the kids will be like, oh, belly button, and start laughing and getting distracted because they're easily amused by everything.
So here we got something from BK. He said, "Ni hao." So as I tell people about my journey through learning and becoming fluent in Brazilian Portuguese, how are you with your Chinese?
Oh, my Chinese. To be honest, it could be better, but I'm working on it. I'm actually working more on trying to read Chinese because I think I've gotten to the point where I'm kind of tired of playing guess and check or trying to rely on other people to read it for me. So I've been kind of slowly just learning how to recognize the characters. So when I'm looking at things or like trying to figure out the ingredients or trying to figure out what this dish says on the menu, I at least want to be able to have somewhat of an idea of it.
Well, I'll tell you something and I'll offer this to you the same way I offer it to a lot of people. I happen to be a huge advocate of the Pimsleur method. Are you familiar with it?
No, what's that?
Okay. It became famous for me and my friends because everyone I know who wants to study another language, they do it the way a lot of us do it traditionally. They want to go to a college course. They want to do this. They want to do that. What'd you say?
Oh, no, I haven't taken any classes. I've been self-study.
Here's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to tell everybody to watch this because I did something called Live in Brazil, Hustling Portuguese Backwards, about how once the universities basically quit, and I got to back to Pimsleur. Here's the thing about Pimsleur. Pimsleur is 100% pure, nothing but language. There is no reading, there is no writing at all. But if you watch that video that I posted on it, and also look up just other reviews, the thing about Pimsleur is it works. And their claim to fame, PIMS L. Hold on, let me.
I think I see it coming up. PIMSLEUR.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Their claim to fame was that every lesson module is 30 lessons deep. And in 3 modules, you should be able to get off an airplane, any place where you've taken their language, and have a conversation.
Oh, okay.
And now here's what's interesting about it. They're telling the truth. Because the only thing that they catch you on with marketing is they say 30 minutes a day. You got to do one class, 30 minutes a day. I put my earphones in and you have to speak it out. But here's the trick. That's actually not true. What you have to do is take one 30-minute lesson and you have to do it a minimum of twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go through it once, pause, take a break, do some work, see a client. Let's say I have an hour break between two other clients. I get back on, do it again. But I can tell you, just after the first module of 30, they hit you with being able to speak in ways that you never thought possible because they're not convoluting the issue. If you want to learn how to read a book, go someplace else. If you want to learn how to write a paper, go someplace else. But if you want to be able to get off the plane, you understand, and just talk, 3 modules is their claim to fame. And I happen to have an account there. And if you want it, if you promise you're going to use it, I'll give it to you. I'll give you my account.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I'm looking at it on Google, and I'm seeing there's like a lot of people have posted some reviews about it, and I'm looking at their website.
Well, what you should also do is when you go on. By the way, is Chinese that you speak there Cantonese or Mandarin? It's Mandarin, right?
It's Mandarin. Yeah.
Okay. So how many lesson packs do they have for that? Yeah, 1 through 5. Because that's how they have it in Portuguese, 1 through 5, 1 through 5. And it is brutal because you'll step back sometimes and think, in this half an hour, I just started speaking sentences. But they make it a point to show you pronunciation, you know?
That's key for Chinese because it's a tonal language.
Right. Yeah. And it's 80 hours. But don't look at that 80 hours. I just look at it as 30 minutes a day. Just get my hustle in. It's just like going to the gym. You know that no days off. Either I'm lifting, pre-COVID. Either I'm lifting weights or I'm going in to do a half an hour on the treadmill. I do, listen, I'm going to tell anybody who's watching, sometimes I've been kind of shaky on my treadmill days. But you get the point.
Yeah.
But I'm there for you if you want it.
Yeah, we'll talk. We could talk more about that after.
Loving the education.
Claims and bullies Taiwan.
Well, okay, bully is a strong word because bully means I'm going to go take your lunch. Bully can mean a lot of. I don't know that they bully Taiwan. That's a strong accusation. Because China has the capacity to do a lot of mean stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
If China really wanted to bully somebody, they can go put their foot in somebody's behind quickly if they want to. It's a matter of they don't actually want to do violence against other Chinese people, which I think is admirable.
Yeah, they like to claim places, but it seems like they're slow to use force.
Yeah, well, their whole philosophy is we don't want to use force against other Chinese people, even if they're not ready to be family again, which I think is noble. You know, and am I biased? Yes, China was good to me.
I actually never been to China, so I don't have an opinion of it.
The world is different now, but I really wish you could have gone to China and hung out in places like Shanghai.
I've only been to Hong Kong, but I call that like China light because it's still different.
It's different, but it's not that downtown Shanghai, you know, one of the largest cities in the world hustle.
Yeah, that's a big city. So I'm sure it's pretty interesting. Yeah, and also Beijing, it's a big city.
What'd you say?
I said, I imagine Shanghai and Beijing are 2 very interesting places because it's a huge metropolis. Have you been to Beijing or any other of the big cities?
No, I hung out in Shanghai. Shanghai is large enough to keep you occupied for years.
Mm-hmm. Wait, how long have you lived in Shanghai again? I forgot.
About 2 years.
Okay.
And it was, it's wild. Because living there as an expat, you get different privileges that Chinese people don't, and it gets weird sometimes. Mm-hmm. Because you're not looked at as part of the system, so you're not held to certain constraints, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that's neither here nor there. Listen, I got to run and you got to run. We didn't get to half the stuff that I wanted to.
Yeah, we could have gone really deep with this, and I'm curious to see where you would want to take the conversation. But I mean, we can always do a part two because I feel like there's many layers to it.
Well, yeah. Well, let me do this. What is the general message of life in Taiwan that you want to give people?
I would say with Taiwan, as a foreigner living here, well, I should say as an American foreigner living here, because I can only speak from my perspective. I would say life here is very comfortable, and I noticed a lot of people said that, and I didn't really know what they meant until I've stayed here for more than a year. And the the quality of life is good. The work life balance is good. I've had time to pursue other hobbies outside of work, and I really love traveling around here. It's very easy and efficient to see many places here. So I always recommend Taiwan to everybody. See it for
Yeah,
yourself. Well,
yeah.
I guess when we can travel again, because Taiwan's not letting people in right now.
That's a whole different kettle of fish. By the way,
Oh,
can you give me a synopsis on how they handled COVID?
oh yeah. So things here, we've been very lucky compared to many places in the world because Taiwan handled it very early. And I think because of that, it never got bad here because we never really essentially had a real quarantine. So when things started to spread, that was during Chinese New Year, so late January. So at that time, people were already out of school. Many people were vacationing. A lot of things were closed. I guess so for people who don't know what Chinese New Year is think of it as like Christmas on steroids. That's pretty much what I call it. It's a time
Yeah,
where everything's closed, and this is a time where everyone goes traveling somewhere, whether it's vacationing or they're traveling to see their family. So think of it like that. And people usually go away for like a week or two, or maybe as long as a month. So since the virus started spreading during this time, while people were already out of school, while some businesses were already closed, what the government decided to do was just extend the closures for 2 more weeks so they can figure out what to do. And I think another thing that I guess some people may or may have not been aware of is that the Taiwanese government first heard about the virus back in December. So I think that's probably about a month or a month and a half before many other places around the world kind of really heard about what was going on in China. So back in December, they heard, oh, there's some weird sickness going on around China. And to them, they were thinking, like, oh, that sounds really familiar because in the early 2000s, there was the SARS outbreak. And that also started in China and it also impacted Taiwan. And I think because the SARS outbreak was such a fresh wound in their memory, they kind of examined that whole situation, talked about what went right, what went wrong. So I think once they heard about what was spreading around China so soon, they kind of assumed for the worst. And they already started kind of like monitoring people that were coming from China before the Chinese New Year holiday started because they knew that if they didn't do something themselves, that things could get really ugly here. Even with the fact that you have organizations like the who would not help Taiwan if things were to get out of hand. So I feel like because of that, things here essentially really haven't been that bad. We haven't had like a quote unquote real lockdown. Um, so things here are mostly normal. I don't really check the stats anymore, but I think most of the cases here have all been resolved. So people are either cured or if it didn't end up so great, they passed away, unfortunately. So things here are mostly normal. I guess the only difference is now that at work and on public transportation, you wear a mask. Any indoor spaces that are very small, they usually check your temperature, and there's like hand sanitizer dispensers everywhere. But I mean, outside of that, things here are mostly normal.
that's the advantage of having a small population to deal with. You can hit things and pivot quick.
Yeah. So yeah, they really acted on it early.
What I was also telling people, and this is something I want to talk to you about, you have a lot of experience doing what you do as well as a writer. One of the things I found is on YouTube, I get a lot of messages and emails from people asking for deeper, detailed information. What paperwork do I use? Blah, 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 things like that. And I would always do it, just for fun until it got to the point where some people were just not doing the things I asked. So what I started was a Patreon. The Patreon is where I give a lot of information that is not fun. This is where we put all the deep information on everything from how to become a subject matter expert with your skills, different ways to travel the world. I have a friend, we did Sitting in Luxury. I have a friend who literally gets paid to go to these luxury houses. What was a big one? A big one was the whole, where was it? Background checks, how to get your background checks done efficiently and correctly when you go to other countries. So if anyone needs that information or any information like that, that's where we put it. That's where we put it.
Yeah.
But I do want to go back to that whole peer pressure thing. You have too much information, too much life experience to not really disseminate it on a wider platform. I'm not telling you not to write, but take what you write and go forward with it.
Yeah, I hear you. I'll definitely put more consideration to it and actually maybe do something about it. Cause I mean, I've thought about it, but it's just like, I don't really feel like making a video. I don't like doing those kind of things. But I mean,
you're doing it now, and you've done it with me several times, so it's not like it's complicated.
Yeah, I know it's not complicated. It's just I don't feel like doing it. It's just I just don't like to.
All right. Well, listen. I'm gonna hang up with the public. I got some things to say to you backstage. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I feel like it's been a while since I've been in one of your chats, but I think this is the first time we've had just a one-on-one. Because usually it's with a lot of people when we're talking about like social or political topics. So yeah, it was nice to get on again and chat with you.